Hello everyone and welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna. I'm your filthy casual host, DylanLasagna, with all the filthy casual take on the world of pro wrestling and sports. And in this video, we're back with our weekly preview, or weekly picks for the 2022 NFL season. It is week 3, only the third week of this season, and I feel like, again, it's going by pretty quick. It is coming on strong, and this week is kind of already a big week. It's divisional, like a lot of divisional matchups happening. And honestly, I don't know how to be able to top what was a wild second week that was full of comebacks, full of surprises. But hey, anything can happen in the wide world of the NFL. So with that being said, let's get into these matchups, shall we? Let's get into these games. So kicking things off was the Thursday night game only on Amazon Prime Video. You can watch it nowhere else. Pay $15, bitch. So anyway, the Cleveland Browns defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 29-27 to go to 2-1. Yeah, this game was kind of a snooze fest from both teams, but the Browns overcame their mistakes that the Steelers couldn't and pulled away. Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper had some good nights, and they pulled away from this one. And yeah, they patted the icing on the cake with a fumble return touchdown. Yeah, that happened. And, you know, for the Steelers, I think it's time for them to start considering putting in Kenny Pickett, you know, having him start. So going to the Sunday slate of games, we have the New Orleans Saints in the early morning portion, going to Carolina to take on the 0-2 Panthers. Both of these teams struggled last week. For the Saints, they struggled against a strong Tampa Bay defense, and you got to see the Jameis Winston of old. And they eventually caved to a 20-10 defeat, while Baker Mayfield of old, also of the skid marks, reappeared for the Panthers as they fell to the New York Giants 19-16. So going to this game for both teams, again, they struggled. Both Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston struggled, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to bounce back first. Is it going to be Jameis or is it going to be Baker? I don't know who's going to be, but it's going to be a battle of, well, if neither of them can bounce back from their struggles, one of these teams is going to have to carry them. Christian McCaffrey, though, he continues to reemerge, fully healthy. At least the first 2 weeks he was healthy. Can he continue that streak going into week 3? But he's going to be tested against a pretty game Saints run defense. So I'm going to go with New Orleans in this game because, well, even though their quarterback situation is kind of inconsistent, their offense has been pretty inconsistent. I pretty much trust their defense to get it done. And Baker Mayfield, he's pretty unreliable. The Houston Texans take on the Chicago Bears. Both teams, yeah, they also didn't have the greatest of weeks. Davis Mills couldn't get anything going against a also struggling Denver Broncos team. They fell 9-16. While the United States of America got their yearly dose of primetime Bears football, as the Bears, went back to their roots, to the run game, bad playing calling, letting everyone know that Aaron Rodgers is their daddy once again, as they got swarmed by the Packers 10-27 in a total ass whooping on national television. So going into this game, I'm basically looking at, for the Texans, Davis Mills. I mean, he struggled in the game against Denver, but there's no real reason to bench the guy. And plus, he doesn't really have much talent around him aside from Dameon Pierce, Brandon Cooks, I guess Nico Collins. I mean, he has an okay offensive line, but there's not really much you can do, but this is what you get when you don't really build around him. For the Bears, you got to bounce back. They got to bounce back. They got to rinse that taste out of their mouth. I mean, they know that they're a rebuilding team, but they got to see what they have in Justin Fields. He made some mistakes in the Sunday night game, and they got to let him do his thing against the Texans. So I'm going with the Bears in this one because, well, I just don't know about the Texans. So in another matchup in the early morning slate, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're 2-0. They're going to take on the Indianapolis Colts, who are basically 0-2, even though they're 0-1-1, but they should be 0-2 with the way they've been playing. For the Chiefs, they stormed back last week from a 10-point deficit against the Chargers. Pick 6 on Justin Herbert pretty much sealed the deal for them, and they had to hold them off 27-24 to get that win. For the Colts, they went to the land of all elite wrestling, and they got absolutely embarrassed, even worse than last year, as they got shut out 0-24 by the Jaguars. Now, there are some concerning things for the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Ryan is not playing well. He's hastily throwing the ball. He got intercepted 3 times in that game against Jacksonville. Jonathan Taylor has had some quiet performances, especially last week in week 2. I think it's becoming a little, it's not big time clear yet, but it may not be a little clear right now that perhaps maybe Carson Wentz wasn't the total problem. I'm starting to take a little bit back of what I said in my season recap. Maybe Carson Wentz wasn't the problem in that failure of a season last year. So the Colts got to figure something out quick, or it's going to be another problem where the quarterback gets scapegoated, or maybe this time it was the quarterback that is the problem. But either way, things are not looking good for the Colts. For the Chiefs, well, it seems like things are going just fine without Tyreek Hill. And defensively, you could do more, but it is what it is. So obviously, I'm rolling with the Chiefs. I think they should be comfortable winning this one. Now, in a big test for both teams, this is a big game that everyone should be keeping an eye on. The Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins colliding with each other in a early critical AFC East clash. Both of them are 2-0. The Bills kept the momentum going from their Week 1 win against the Rams by totally destroying Ryan Tannehill and the Titans on a Monday night, 41-7, while Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins stormed back against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. 21 points, they were down, and they stunned the Ravens 42-38 on Week 2. Now, for the Bills, they're going to be missing some key players in this game. Micah Hyde, the safety, Dane Jackson, the corner, who was taken to a hospital in that Monday night game out of the arena or the stadium in an ambulance. And they may be missing Jordan Poyer. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. But either way, they're going to be missing a few key defenders in that game, and they're going to be having to contain a red hot Miami offense that contains Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, and of course a running tandem of Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. Man, that is crazy insane. And for the Dolphins, well, if you want to avoid a situation like last week where you were down in that big hole in the first place, Tua has to get off to a faster start to avoid that situation. He can't make too many mistakes. So while I'm rolling with the Buffalo Bills in this situation, because Josh Allen is playing his best football right now, it's still early, but they have to be careful here. They can't be rolling the dice too much defensively because Tua and the Miami Dolphins offense are also playing well. So keep an eye on both of these teams during this game. Now, the Detroit Lions go to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. The Lions beat the Washington Commanders, but they had to hold them off to survive 36-27. And once again, on the bright lights on Monday night for the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins shrank against the Philadelphia Eagles 24-7 in Week 2. For the Lions, this is their first road game of the season. It's going to be a big test for them early, despite it being Kirk Cousins and all. But you get to see what Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and that offense is going to look like on the road. And it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson's first game on defense in an NFL game on the road. So it's the Lions, the young Lions' first test, on the road against what could be a potential wild card contender in the Minnesota Vikings. Speaking of the Vikings, they need more consistency from Kirk Cousins, per usual. I mean, it's that simple. They didn't get it on Monday night because, well, Kirk Cousins loves to choke under the bright lights when they shine brightest. So, call me crazy, like I did in week 2, but I did get it right. I'm rolling with the Lions again. I call me crazy. Like, I kind of believe in these young Lions. I like what Dan Campbell is doing with them. So call me crazy. Call me freaking crazy. They may be rebuilding, but hell, I'm rolling with them. So the Baltimore Ravens traveled to New England to take on the Patriots. Lamar Jackson had a big performance in the first half that put the Ravens up 21 points by the third quarter. But like I said, they gave it away. Mainly it was because of the defense. They couldn't stop Tua Tagovailoa. They lost 38-42. Meanwhile, Mac Jones and the Patriots, they pretty much struggled against and also struggling offensively Steelers for much of that game, but they did just enough to pull away 17-14. For both of these teams, for the Ravens first, the Ravens have to tighten up defensively after last week's choke. Meanwhile, for the Patriots, it's obviously clear that they're still trying to find their identity on offense, like, because it's like they don't know what to do. They really don't know what they're doing, and it looks like there's some consequence of like not finding an actual offensive coordinator, and that's going to be tested again when they face an actual offense that has an actual offensive coordinator in the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going to go with the Ravens here. The Cincinnati Bengals, who are 0-2, traveled to New York to take on the Jets. If y'all remember last year what happened with this game, with the Bengals and the Jets, yeah, the Jets got an upset win over Cincinnati, the eventual AFC champions. In terms of last week for both of these teams, the Bengals allowed another multi-sack performance on their quarterback, Joe Burrow, but they nearly came back. But unfortunately, they fell to the rush of Cooper's Dallas Cowboys. Yes, the backup quarterback who's filling in for Dak Prescott. They lost to Cooper Rush and the Cowboys 17-20. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco, who's backing up and filling in for the injured Zach Wilson, he helped the Jets rapidly rally back in literally in less than 2 minutes. They rallied back to beat the Cleveland Browns 31-30. Like, holy heck. That was insane. So, for the Bengals, I mean, I don't know what's going on with them. Like, I don't know why they're on this 0-2 start. I mean, the offensive line, like all that investment that they did, they should be doing good, right? They should be protecting Joe Burrow. But they're not. They're still allowing a lot of sacks on him. And some of those sacks are by Joe Burrow himself, like not getting rid of the ball faster. So they have to get in a rhythm quickly. Otherwise, they could be staring at an 0-3 hole down in the AFC North. And you could be smelling big yikes in Cincinnati. Meanwhile, for the Jets, I don't know if this is going to be the last week that Joe Flacco fills in for Zach Wilson, but whether or not, can he hold it down another week to net another upset? Who knows? Maybe they can make a close game, but I'm picking the Cincinnati Bengals to win this one. The Las Vegas Raiders traveled to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Both teams are 0-2. As we know, the Raiders jumped out to this 20-0 first half lead, but they saw it slip away to the Cardinals. As Kyler Murray just went off on them. They danced around the Raiders. And in overtime, Byron Murphy got a scoop and score touchdown. The Raiders lost 23-29. And, well, I can say with the Raiders at least, while they choked it away, they at least didn't get destroyed on Monday night like the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill. They got smacked around silly by the Bills 7-41. So both of these teams are 0-2, coming off very shitty losses. Like, you got to wonder, like, how are they mentally preparing for this? Like, what's the game in here? Well, like, I'm picking the Raiders to win this game, but it's like, damn. Like, you're wondering how both of these teams are just, like, trying to figure out how not to blow this game. Like, seriously. How are they not going to blow this game? How one or the other not going to try to get blown out, like, by mega proportions here? Like, yikes. So in one of the last games or the early morning slate, the Philadelphia Eagles traveled to the nation's capital to take on their NFC East rivals, the Commanders. And it was kind of I'm going to do good on this half and you're going to do good on this half. And that was exactly what the tale of their Monday night performance was. Jalen Hurts in the offense did pretty good in the first half of their 24-7 victory over the Vikings, while Darius Slay and the defense took over in the second half. So that's pretty much how I saw it. Meanwhile, for the Washington Commanders, yeah, mistakes did them in. Sure, they came back against the Detroit Lions, but Carson Wentz made a flurry of mistakes. And one of those mistakes was on their last fourth down. So that's what did them in as they lost 27-36. Now, of course, Jalen Hurts, he's continually proving everyone wrong, at least for the first 2 weeks. He's showing some improvement as a passer, making good decisions, making the right reads, and he's looking to continue to do that against a Washington defense that was pretty much non-existent against the Lions. Meanwhile, for the Commanders, they need to command some improvement out of Carson Wentz. They need him to cut down on the turnovers because, yeah, he's making too many mistakes, holding the ball for too long. It's like that was the reason they were in that 22-0 hole. So, despite all that, I'm picking the Eagles to win this game. So, going to the late afternoon action, the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the LA Chargers. Trevor Lawrence obviously had 4 touchdowns, and that all-elite defense of Jacksonville held the Colts to no points as they had a 24-0 blank on them. Meanwhile, the Chargers, they couldn't sustain a 17-7 advantage over the Chiefs. Justin Herbert also got hurt in that game. You could clearly see him struggle during that stretch. But I mean, hey, he had a gutsy performance, but not enough to get the win as they lost 24-27. So obviously, the biggest thing for the Chargers is the health of Justin Herbert after he suffered I think it was a rib cartilage injury in that Week 2 game. Meanwhile, for the Jags, how do you follow up that crazy, upset-filled Week 2 performance against the Colts? We're about to find out. So while I'm going with the Chargers in this one, I mean, don't be surprised if they try to clipper this up. So in the desert, the Arizona Cardinals host the LA Rams in an NFC West matchup. The Rams, they did what they're supposed to do against an inferior team in the Falcons, but no one told them that they were supposed to almost Falcons this game. Try to relive Super Bowl 51, 28-3. But luckily, Jalen Ramsey saved their asses as they held on to beat them 31-27. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, they had those same first half struggles like they did against the Chiefs, against the Raiders. But Kyler Murray showed, at least for that 1 week, showed him why you needed to pay him the big bucks with a crazy ass comeback against the Raiders as they had that 29-23 overtime win. So, going into this game, the Rams offense is clicking against the Falcons, but Matthew Stafford had a couple of turnovers in that game. It was a little alarming, and of course, you had that near 28-3 collapse that made people sweat in that game. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, that was just craziness from Kyler Murray. It literally was. Can they keep that going? Can they sustain that against a better Rams defense? Or at least we thought it was a better Rams defense until they nearly blew it against the Falcons. Hell, we've seen crazier things. So while I picked the Rams to win this game, don't be surprised if the Cardinals pull something out of their ass. So speaking of the Falcons, they travel to the Emerald City to take on the Seahawks. The Falcons, like I said, they nearly erased their demons at Super Bowl 51, but they just came up a little short. Meanwhile, for Seattle, that high of Week 1 where they beat the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, quickly went away as they ran into a good 49ers defense and Pete Carroll's stupidity in strange trick plays as they lost 7-27. So for the Falcons, they have a lot of fight in them as they're rebuilding, but so far, nothing has come of it, and that's why they're 0-2. Meanwhile, for the Seahawks, I mean, Geno Smith has been fine. I mean, it's like, sure, he made a couple of mistakes in that week 2 game, but it's nothing like backbreaking for them. And it's not like, well, his coaching staff doing him any favors, like all the trick plays and whatnot. For Seattle, it's like, meh. So I'm kind of going on a limb here and picking the Falcons to win their first game, but I don't know. It is what it is. So in America's Game of the Week, the Green Bay Packers take on the 2-0 Tampa Bay Bucks. They had their usual bounce back from a shit week 1 game, aka, I mean, in terms of the the Packers. Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones had 2 good games, and the defense forced the entire Chicago team when they played the Bears in prime time, and they won 27-10 on Sunday Night Football in week 2. Meanwhile, for the Bucks, they learned not to piss off Tom Brady when he plays off the Saints, and they finally got that monkey off their back because Tom Brady and the Bucks finally got a regular season win for the first time since they came together. So they won 20-10 in week 2, and finally got that W. So going into this game, I mean, it's a rematch of their 2020 NFC Championship game in Lambeau, but now they're in the sunny, well, I'm assuming it's going to be warm, Tampa. So the Packers are still trying to establish a rhythm with everyone not named Randall Cobb and Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. I don't know if the entirety of their offensive line is going to be there. I'm not sure if David Bakhtiari is back there for the Packers in the offensive line. But either way, they're still trying to get Christian Watson involved, Romeo Doubs involved. That receiving core for the Packers needs to get involved at some point. For the Bucks, they're not going to have Mike Evans because he was suspended for fighting the Saints corner, Marshawn Lattimore, and their rivalry that took center stage in that game. So they're going to have to find ways to attack the air without him. I'm still picking the Bucks to win this game because they at least have established chemistry in their core, unlike the Packers, but it may be a little bit difficult for both teams to move this ball. Going to the Sunday night game, we have my San Francisco 49ers taking on the Denver Broncos. Both teams are 1-1. The 49ers had a strong defensive showing against the Seahawks, which paved the way to a 27-7 bounce-back win from week 1, but it came at a price. They lost Trey Lance to a season-ending ankle injury, and now comes back the Jimmy Garoppolo show. Meanwhile, for Denver, the Broncos heavily struggled on offense, and Nathaniel Hackett is still struggling with the basic fundamentals of being a head coach, with play calling and clock management. But I mean, they still did enough to win an ugly 16-9 affair against the Texans. Of course, with the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo is back under center, and we saw how that offense will fare. Basically, a lot of quick throws underneath to Debo, Ayuk. Now Kittle's going to be there. So how's that offense going to fare against a relatively good, sneaky good Denver defense that often gets overshadowed by the so far crappiness of the Denver offense? When is Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson going to click? Are they ever going to click? It's 2 weeks, and already they look disorganized. Yikes. So anyway, I'm picking my 49ers to win this game because they have a stronger defense than Denver, who can be taken advantage of with their struggles. But hey, anything can happen. And then, of course, we have the Monday Night Football game to close out the week. The Dallas Cowboys travel to New York to take on the 2-0 asterisk Giants. So for Dallas, they have Cooper Rush starting his first of 6 games while he's filling in for Dak. And he did okay. I mean, he managed the game pretty relatively okay. They just had to hold off Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and they got the game-winning field goal as they beat the Cincinnati Bengals 20-17. Meanwhile, for the Giants, Graham Gano had a big day with his leg as the Giants beat the Panthers 19-16. Now, going to this game, I noticed that the reason why the Cowboys were sacking Joe Burrow so much is not only was Joe Burrow holding onto the ball so much for too long, it was because Micah Parsons, the Cowboys linebacker, he started lining up on the edge more often, and that's why he was just getting to Joe Burrow unguarded so often. So perhaps that's a strategy that the Cowboys are going to start implementing going forward. So that's something to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, for the Giants, I mean, their defense has been pretty solid. But then again, look at the teams that they played so far. They played the Panthers, and they played, who was their week 1 team? Oh, the Titans. I mean, the Titans were a playoff team, but they don't really resemble it now. But will they be able to contain the rush of Cooper's Cowboys? I mean, we'll see. Cooper Rush is a okay backup quarterback, so we'll see. So anyway, I mean, I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to win this game. I mean, they have the better defense. I mean, the somewhat reliable backup quarterback that can get it done when it needs to get done. So, yeah, going with the Cowboys here. And that's my picks for week 2 of the 2022 season. I might be wrong again as per usual, but hey, that's the name of the game here. So let me know your picks for week 3. We're on week 3 of the 2022 season, and we can feel free to discuss them however you can. So anyway, this is DylanLasagna of Very Cold Lasagna, signing out with those filthy casual takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports. And until next time, peace out.